There are two captains in an army, one known for being cowardly and one known for being brave. It's the night before a big battle, and the two captains are talking to each other. Then, suddenly, the cowardly captain asks the brave captain, "Hey, how do you go into battle without feeling any fear?" And the brave captain thinks about it for a little bit, and then he replies, "I don't know. But if you ever figure out the answer to that question, could you please teach me?" Now, as you probably guessed from the thumbnail, this video is going to talk a lot about Emerald, and I'm not going to try and convince you that she's some sort of saint or has secretly been a hero all along. After all, she has lied, cheated, stolen, and I think even killed. But I am a firm believer in giving credit where credit is due, and criticism where criticism is due. And oddly enough, despite being aligned with the villains for most of the show, Emerald's journey reminds us of the most important aspect about being brave. Let's start with the beginning of her journey, or at least the earliest part we are shown, when she meets Cinder for the first time. Even in that early interaction, Emerald is shown to be a thief, having just used her semblance to rob a jewelry store. Even if she is stealing to survive, she's already shown to not be on the right side of the law, and we don't know what other crimes she's willing to commit. And it only gets worse from then on. Now, this is most likely due to Cinder's influence, as we're shown that Emerald is pretty fiercely loyal to Cinder, at least in the earlier parts of the show. But it's not just about the crimes or the wrongdoings that Emerald commits, it's also the manner in which she commits them. Emerald has no qualms with deceiving people. She lies about her identity in order to get into the Vital Festival. In fact, deception is kind of what her entire semblance is built around. During the Vital Festival, she cheats, using her semblance on both Pyrrha and Yang. And this isn't just to gaslight them for shizzles and giggles. She does this to sow chaos and promote hysteria. This serves as a beacon for the Grimm to help invade the city. And Emerald had to have known that. She had to have known what her actions were going to lead to. And yet, she still does it without batting an eye. Just to reiterate, Emerald helps bring down a kingdom, despite the many lives that would ruin or even end. And at no point did I see her even hesitate about this course of action. I already went over the stealing, so finally, it's interesting how one of her first interactions on screen is her being sent on a hit job, with her working together with Mercury in order to kill a man in cold blood. And I remind you, her expression afterwards, well, she might as well have been smiling after the job was done. In fact, Emerald is shown to have very few redeeming qualities, with one of them being that at least she's loyal. Unfortunately, that loyalty is to Cinder, which is a detail I'm going to need you to hold on to for now, because we're going to come back to that real soon. Then Emerald meets Salem, and things begin to change. Slowly, subtly, but they do change, because of one thing. Emerald is terrified of Salem. It's like if Zabuza and Haku had to meet Madara. It's like, I'm a villain, but you a villain. Emerald's fear of Salem presents itself in subtle ways, with how she talks when Salem is present, the way she goes stiff whenever Salem enters the room, the unmistakable horror and fear in her eyes when she sees certain actions committed by Salem or her associates. But one of the most important and perhaps pivotal moments to displaying Emerald's fear of Salem is when Emerald's semblance evolves. In that moment, Emerald shows everyone a grotesque and ghastly figure of Salem that distracts them while they make their getaway. And what's really important, I think, is this is probably how Emerald sees Salem in her own mind. This figure that's way too monstrous to even fathom. But the part I want to focus on is that this happened at a moment when it became clear that Hazel, Emerald, and Mercury had failed in their missions for Salem, and that Cinder had most probably been defeated. In this moment, I imagine that Emerald had wanted to rush to Cinder's side to see if she was okay or rescue her out of whatever situation she was in. But she was torn between that and her fear of Salem and the fact that they just failed the mission for her. I think in this moment we're starting to see Emerald's loyalty to Cinder come into conflict with her fear of Salem, and her mind is trying to grapple with the two, figuring out what steps to make next. And in the end, I think the fear won. I think this point is put on full display later on when Emerald wants to ask Salem about perhaps searching for and rescuing Cinder if necessary. And Salem seems to respond in a way that says, well, Cinder's not useful to us, so why would we waste resources on that? This is probably something Emerald would disagree with on a regular basis, but her fear of Salem grips her so much that she just tacitly agrees. I think this shows the moment where Emerald's loyalty to Cinder has faltered. It's kind of a big deal too. I remember watching that moment and just thinking to myself, whoa, did Emerald just hang Cinder out to dry? Really? Emerald abandoned Cinder? It was kind of shocking. So at this point, Emerald's fear of Salem seems to be the most pressing concern for her, even surpassing her loyalty to Cinder. So the decision to turn on Salem comes across as quite the twist if you think about it. Now I know this decision was spurred on by Hazel. Hazel could see how much Emerald just did not want to be anywhere near Salem, and he decided it was probably time Emerald made an exit from the whole evil cabal. But afterwards, Emerald still joins Team RWBY and the others in helping Atlas and standing against Salem by extension. I mean, if the main priority was fear and getting away from Salem, she could have just used her semblance to distract Team RWBY and then skedaddled out of there. In contrast, take Lionheart for example. Lionheart had fought alongside Ozpin presumably for years, had been battling Salem and her forces for such a long time. He had been a close ally of Ozpin despite all the horrors that Salem could bring about. So it did come as a bit of a surprise when Lionheart turned on Ozpin. Even though Ozpin had likely seen betrayals like Lionheart's before many times, Ozpin was still wondering to himself what happened, what actually spurred on this betrayal. And I think we're kind of shown the answer. His fear of Salem got to him. He just wanted out. Lionheart, despite knowing what kind of horrors Salem can bring about, chooses to help Salem in hopes that Salem will just leave him alone afterwards and he can finally exit the secret war. He's not too worried about Ozpin because, Ozpin is a good guy and good guys have certain lines they won't cross. That's what someone controlled by fear looks like, or what they're expected to look like. Obedience to Salem, not defiance of her. So what gives with Emerald? Well, I'll tell you. Emerald did not stop being scared. She just decided to finally do something about it. Remember that story about the two captains from earlier? The lesson was, bravery is not the absence of fear, but rather the willingness to act in spite of it. I think Emerald sees a path where the fear no longer controls her. If she were to run away, the fear would still be controlling her. If she were to stay obedient to Salem, the fear would still be controlling her. But were she to stand with Team RWBY, finally, she acts in defiance of the fear. Now again, Emerald is not exactly a hero, and is certainly not a saint, but that doesn't mean we can't learn anything from her. Credit where credit's due, right? It is a bit interesting though that we learn this type of lesson from a villainous character who was motivated by fear. But it just goes to show that bravery can come from anywhere. and maybe other virtues too. Remember Watts sharing his wisdom with Cinder? And that was quite the moment. Emerald also shows us that bravery doesn't always look glorious. In fact, there are moments where it looks like she's about to do the lady version of shizzing your pants. But she still takes steps to stand against the fear. And that's the only part that really matters. So a little bit of encouragement before we end off. When you're scared, when you're truly gripped by fear, know that you are one step away from being truly brave. Until next time, keep it smooth. Quick a little aside, what's the name of the heroes? Because, like, Team RWBY just refers to Ruby, Yang, Weiss, and Blake. But, like, the heroes are more than that. It's also Jean and... I almost said Pyrrha. Rip and Ronnie's Pyrrha. Jean, Nora, Ren, even Crow, I guess Emerald now too, also Oscar. Like, what do we call that whole group? Is there a name for it? Like, just heroes? Our heroes? I feel like we can come up with something better than that. Team RWBY and Friends? I don't know. I feel like we need to workshop it. What's their name? There's probably a cool acronym in there somewhere. I can't think of it. But if anyone knows, I'd like to start using that term because I feel like it would be more convenient. I said Team RWBY a few times in this video, but I meant more than them, right? So, yeah. If anyone can help me out with that, that'd be great. Or if anyone has good ideas, let me know. Anyway, bye.